out that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder hope gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Energy Week with George Harvey and Tom Fennell. Tom, wave to the people. Wave to the people.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm George Harvey's evil twin.
Hello there. I'm trying to make sure this thing's working right.
Yeah, well, you know, that's what we do for a living. We try to make everything work. Okay. This show is news on energy and climate change, and it's news that comes from my blog, geoharvey.wordpress.com. And we try to get the best of the blog, as Tom says, and bring it to you once a week. Okay, so we are starting on Thursday, August 27th, with a really beautiful story. In Vermont, 2 long-delayed Windham County hydroelectric stations are well underway and may begin producing power by fall. Well, fall is only a couple of weeks away.
That's what they're talking about.
Yep, producing 3.1 megawatts in combination. New Jersey-based Eagle Creek Renewable Energy LLC is building 2 hydro projects at the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers dams in Townsend and Jamaica. This is from vtdigger.org, and there is a picture of the...
That's Townsend.
Townsend Dam.
You can see the beach in the background?
The beach.
Let me see if I can get this... I don't know, people might be able to see that. But there's the beach. Nice beach. They got picnic areas back there. You ever been there?
I have never been there. I want to go.
It's a nice little recreation area.
Yeah, that sounds cool. Yeah. And it's one of those things that makes southeastern Vermont one of the best places in the world to live. Okay.
Where is my mouse? I mean, it's supposed to be up there, and I see a little cross on the screen, and a sign
Are you
says
using the right
Dam.
mouse?
I'm using the right mouse, but
What can I say?
you can't say much.
Nope, not much.
I'm not going to be able to figure it out.
I've never been able to say much.
Show.
That's why I have a TV show. Oh, did it move? No, it didn't move. Okay.
It's a mouse off to the side, but when I get it on the picture, it turns into a cross. I'll have to work on that when I'm home.
Okay.
I got a history with this with this project.
The dam?
Well, the project of trying to develop power there.
Oh, I thought maybe you were talking about the project of trying to get the mouse going.
Oh, well, that's another project. No. Myself and some people from the Wardsboro area formed the West River Basin Energy Committee.
Aha.
And it was our goal at that time to develop these 2 dams.
Yes.
And we ran into a lot of problems.
Yes.
The biggest problem was that the way the market was structured then, we could basically only sell the power we generated to, it was Central Vermont Public Service at that time, or use it ourselves.
Yes.
And Central Vermont didn't want it.
Yes.
So we had to form, in order to make this work, a municipal utility composed of 7 towns that would take the power and distribute it. And basically, every one of those 7 towns was going to get free power.
Wow.
Okay, because we had more power than the people were using.
Yeah.
Or potentially.
Yeah.
And we got a certificate of public good. We went that far that the state said you could do it.
Okay.
But we could not get the towns to agree to form a municipal utility.
Oh, man. Yeah, I don't want to take that power. It's free. I want power that costs money.
Well, they had so many objections. One guy was very, very vociferous. He says, for the 2 months it's going to take to modify Jamaica Dam, I won't be able to use the Seminole, which is a nice little swimming place. And he was at every meeting saying basically that same thing. I mean, the trucks were going to come in and down, and they were going to tear up the road, and we're talking. Well, it's happening now as we speak, right now.
Yes, well, there are a lot of things like that happen,
But I would say that he swayed a few people with his just vociferance.
People are swayed by loud noises, and they don't need to have any sense behind them at all.
Well, this was a loud noise.
That's
and,
what happens.
A
And
persistent noise,
we've
and
seen
enough
it.
people.
Yeah, we've seen it happen.
I wouldn't say he stopped the program, but he certainly slowed it down.
Well, he didn't stop it completely because the dam has been developed. But
well, it's a different market now.
I know.
They can sell this power in the open market. It's useful. I mean, these guys are investing money. They're getting money back.
Yep, people are getting very aware of what is needed.
And
so,
here is the takeaway from this. There are a lot of existing dams that are suitable for adding generation.
yeah,
Because these dams were built for flood control.
Yeah.
Down in Springfield and Hartford.
The amount of power that we can get from dams in Vermont. I've forgotten what it is exactly.
We've talked about it before.
We have talked about it.
These are existing dams.
They're existing
Nobody's gonna do
dams.
anything
The
to
water's already stopped.
Yeah.
The fish are already blocked.
Yeah. All
There's
of that
no additional environmental damage that would happen. And you know, all you got to do is put in the turbines.
Well, it's
going
to happen.
We could get.
It's happening. There's people right now trying to put it in motion. This is just the first two.
Yeah, we could get a significant part of the energy we need in Vermont from dams that were already exist. And that's not unusual. That is true all over the United States. There are dams that exist for flood control or irrigation or whatever to create a swimming hole that you could have power from. But the power is not in. It's not in place.
Exactly.
Or it was once in place,
and it
that
broke
has
down.
too.
Yeah.
and the dam is still there, but the power, the turbine in one case of a place I saw in near Bennington, the turbine was in place, but it had broken down many years ago and needed to be replaced. And all they needed to do is swap out
put a new one in.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay.
Moving right along.
Moving along. Business Green. By the way, I did say that came from VT Digger, I think.
Well, it did.
Yep.
It did. It was also in the Commons.
Yeah. Okay.
Same reporter.
Yes. Okay, from Business Green, and this is something we're going to be hitting on more than once after this.
Yeah, several times in this show, yep.
The future of the UK's popular feed-in tariff scheme has been thrown into doubt after the government published a wide-ranging consultation on the program. The document proposes deep cuts to support for solar PV, wind, hydropower from January in a bid to cap government spending on feed-in tariffs at 75 to 100 million pounds.
Now this really doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, this is a government politics. My goodness, calling it politics is giving it a good name. It is not politics. It is flat out corruption. This is flat out corruption, and we can see that later on in this show. We'll see who is getting the money and why. We're not going to see why they're getting the money. We just have to imagine that there is a reason, and the reason is greed. Yeah. Okay.
And unfortunately, the fossil fuel industries in U.S., Canada, UK, Australia, big companies, a lot of government influence, and in each one of these countries, there's a conservative government that's aligned with these guys.
Yes.
And that's basically what's happening.
That's what's happening. And the conservatives, if they had any intelligence at all, would realize that this is not good for business down the line. Man, how stupid can you get? And we'll get into that too. Thank you very much. I enjoy a good rant.
Well, this next
I don't have to have a beard to have a big...
that's coming up.
Yes.
Uses a couple of words that basically follow right up on what we were talking about. It's called stranded assets.
Yes, stranded assets. And, okay, this comes from Clean Technica. A new Citigroup report values the fossil fuel reserves that need to be left in the ground if the world is to meet its targets for trying to limit global warming to 2 degrees Celsius, values those reserves at $100 trillion.
That's a lot of money.
A lot of money. But 2 degrees is a target that, according to the Climate Council report, is actually a lot less safe for humankind than science thought it was just 10 years ago. This is from Clean Technica.
Yeah, that's
and you know, it's interesting to say that they have shifted their target, and actually Citigroup hasn't done this. But here we've got a fossil fuel organization. Citigroup is fossil fuel. No, wait a minute.
Well, Citigroup is a bank.
Is a bank. That's
but they
what it is.
invest. They're an investment bank.
Yeah, and what is happening is they're saying, I was thinking that this was a different organization. Sorry about that. Yeah, but $100 trillion is a lot of money.
And what Citigroup is saying here is 1/3 of global oil reserves, 1/3, and 80% of coal reserves are going to have to stay in the ground.
Yeah.
And the people that own those reserves aren't very happy about it.
They're not happy. And as a matter of fact, the governments that get the money that comes from the people who own the reserves, because these people all pay huge taxes, they're not happy. The whole reason why Australia is cutting support to the renewable energy and trying to move it to coal is that they want to be able to maintain the support for those reserves that they don't want to give it up. It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. When they invested in it, they didn't see this coming.
Right.
And now they're saying, oops.
Oops. However, here's the next story we have is the oops story.
Well, just before we hit that,
yeah.
This again is from Citigroup, and this is a portend of what's coming. The coal industry may need support or bailouts from the governments.
Yeah, right. So does nuclear.
Though the appetite for rescuing industry, both economically and politically, appears limited. So that's going to be the next step. They're going to look.
In other words, folks, don't put money in coal. And as a matter of fact, last week, wasn't it, that we saw that the retirement funds in California had lost $5 billion because they didn't divest fossil fuels.
Yep.
Well, by golly, we told them to. They didn't listen. Okay.
Well, this is a good one.
Yeah, Peninsula Online says Australia's city of Newcastle may be the world's biggest coal export port, but it will pull all its money out of the fossil fuels industries, favoring sustainability. The city council, which manages a $191 million U.S. investment fund for the city, voted to move toward, quote, environmentally and socially responsible investments, end quote. They don't want to lose their money either. So
this is an interesting takeaway. With its heavy use of coal-fired power and relatively small population, Australia is considered one of the world's worst per capita polluters.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Tony Abbott's government is probably one of the most polluted governments.
Well, we've talked about it here. We got a battle going on in Australia between the federal government, which would be Canberra, they're Washington, D.C.,
yeah,
and the provincial governments, the state governments, the town governments, towns like Newcastle,
yep,
where they're saying, no, we're not going to go along with that.
Yeah.
Here's Newcastle. Coal industry has to be a big employer.
Absolutely, it's a
And
huge employer.
they're turning around and saying, we've been wasting our money investing in coal.
Absolutely.
Moving right along.
Absolutely. Okay. Our next piece is from KPBS. And I should mention, the Imperial Irrigation District is in the Imperial Valley in California. And the piece says the Imperial Irrigation District is preparing to build one of the largest battery storage systems in the western United States. The electric storage unit will help the utility deal with fluctuating power. The battery could even help keep the grid operating during a blackout. It's a 30 megawatt battery complex and will use lithium-ion technology.
I wish I could get a concept about how big 30 megawatts is. Like how many trailer trucks would it take to hold 30 megawatts worth of batteries?
How many turkeys could it fry?
Probably a few. Yeah. Gobble, gobble.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a nice picture of that's Salton City, which is right in the middle of the Imperial Valley, and it looks like a desert to me.
It sure does.
And I'm interested in this picture because it's utility lines all over the place, but no houses.
Well, that's why it's called a desert. Because, okay.
Moving right along.
Moving right along. Now we're back to the UK.
Back to the first one we talked about.
Yeah,
This
Queen
is
Technica.
A reprise.
Yes. The UK's Department of Energy and Climate Change has proposed to make calamitous cuts in the country's renewable energy feed-in tariff scheme. The plan's details have emerged, with proposals that domestic solar support be cut by 87% and commercial rooftops by 82%, in addition to devastating cuts in onshore wind.
Well, this is interesting. The federal government's doing it, but the local governments are against this.
Yes,
totally.
absolutely.
Scotland's going crazy.
Oh, the people in Scotland are going nuts on this one, but there are a lot of people
in Wales too.
Yeah, in Wales too, and in other parts of the UK, because they just the whole idea here, from the point of view of the local governments, is that they want people to be able to generate their own power. They want to have power in their town.
Yeah.
And the movements that are made here by the central government, the UK's
They're trying to
Parliament,
discourage all of this stuff.
is that they want big power plants.
Yeah.
And so
We'll see one of them in a couple of minutes.
yeah, right now we're going straight to
That's
it.
the next one, huh?
Yeah, here again, we're seeing a little bit of corruption probably going on here. And this came from The Independent. One of Britain's most controversial energy projects in decades, the £24.5 billion nuclear power development at Hinkley Point in Somerset, is poised to get the green light. The government and EDF have agreed to a deal that would guarantee EDF a price of £92.5 per megawatt hour until 2061.
Rising with inflation during the duration.
And this is 3 times the current wholesale price of electricity. Now you
Tell
know.
me how that makes sense.
Yeah. Now you know where this money is going. If that power plant is built,
Yeah.
all right,
It won't be.
It's going to take at least 10 years to build it.
Yep.
So in 2025, that power plant, assuming that it is 10 years, is going to come online, putting power on the grid at $92.50 plus inflation per megawatt hour at exactly the time that the wind power turbines that they've got and the solar power turbines are operating at a marginal cost that is approaching zero.
Yeah.
So this is going
This
to be...
makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
Oh boy, does it make sense. Instead of having inexpensive electricity, we're going to rely on nuclear. Why? Because there's lots of money involved.
This is also interesting. There's EDF. Who's this company, EDF?
EDF?
Well, it's Electricité de France,
Yes.
which is owned by the government.
Which is owned by the French
The French
government.
government.
So
Now,
what's going on here?
I don't know. If a French government owns a company in England, is that socialism?
Maybe it is, but it's the conservative government that wants to put this foolish thing in. And one of the things that's interesting about it is they've had, this is the new French reactor. Has one of those reactors been built yet?
It's not been built yet, no.
None of these reactors have been built.
I think a pilot plant's been built, but a real
This is the same reactor that the head of nuclear in France was saying there are flaws in the reactors that have been cast. And if those flaws can't be fixed, they're going to shut the thing down. And what are they dependent on for the investment? In addition to the investment coming from France, they're dependent on investment coming from China. And what's going on in China?
I don't think anybody knows, including the Chinese.
Well, they've got a stock market that had the rug pulled out from under it,
Yep.
and that's where the money's going to come from.
Yep.
What is going on in these people's minds? And somehow they get elected into government. Of course, that's not a surprise. Anytime you look at anybody who's in government, Democratic, any kind of government you want, there's something wrong with them. And these people,
Well, like you use the word corruption. Something's going on behind the scenes. We don't know. The people don't know. But somebody's making money on this. Big money.
Well, there's a lot of money being thrown around,
And it's not just the government. I mean, it's
No, it's not just the government.
I'm sure there's people already figured out how to steal that money away from the government.
Yeah, £92.50, £92.50 per megawatt hour. I bet I could talk a lot of squirrels into running in squirrel cages for that amount of money.
That would comparably be about what we're retail paying for power here.
In Vermont.
In Vermont, yeah.
With cow power included.
Yeah.
Actually, not with cow power, but yeah,
But
would
that's
be
retail. And they're talking wholesale.
That's right, and it's a high retail for the United States because Vermont has a high price of power. Not as bad
not terribly high, but
not terribly high, but
we're
sort
a
of
little
high.
bit on the upside.
Well, and we didn't get hit by all those huge increases they had in New Hampshire and Massachusetts and Rhode Island.
Oh, Massachusetts got hit bad.
Parts of New Hampshire had power prices go up 100%.
Yeah.
Man.
Crazy.
Okay. Should we move on to something new and exciting?
Coming up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Newser told us beginning their work in April 2014, a team of South Africa's Stellenbosch University came up with a small heliostat system. This is cool. Made up of 6 triangular mirrors. They also devised wireless smart positioning technology. The compact construction makes a plunkable concentrating solar system. It can be plonked down. Concentrating solar system. It can be plonked down by 2 people. And you've got a picture there.
I've got a picture of it, and the mirrors aren't triangular.
That doesn't.
In spite of what they say, but they are arrayed in triangular units that can be plunked down. Oh. This is a very small system.
It's a very small system. This is not a system that's going to fry eagles as they go flying by, which, by the way, if you've heard those stories about that, they're questionable at best. But nevertheless, this is a system. When I read this, I said to myself, this could actually be concentrating solar in Vermont.
Well, concentrated solar, as we'll find out in a little while, has the advantage over photovoltaic, and it's easy to store the heat that this concentrated solar.
Yeah, if it's concentrated in that manner, but there's also concentrated PV, where
we're not talking about that here now.
Oh, okay.
But, okay, this is what do you call it?
It's solar thermal power.
Solar thermal.
Yeah, and it concentrates, and with solar thermal, you can
save the heat.
Save the heat in salt.
And one of the things I think we're going to talk about is they can save 24 hours worth of heat.
Yes, they can. As a matter of fact, we have. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we've got that coming up, I think.
Yep.
Okay. Next, from the Huffington Post. Critics of President Barack Obama's landmark regulation to reduce carbon dioxide emissions almost always highlight a series of flawed studies, which are often paid for by the utility or fossil fuel interests, to attack the Clean Power Plan. Many of these reports did not even look at the EPA's final official regulations and instead are working on drafts.
Well, this graph that's up there, and it's too complicated to even talk about, but it's entitled "The Reports, the Flaws, and the Funders."
Yeah.
And it's all these companies and how they are joining together through these organizations, which are represented on that picture by the gray squares, gray rectangles.
Yep. Can you name a few of those organizations?
Yeah, well, there's Peabody Coals all over the place here. Koch Industries is down there.
Yes, somebody asked me if I wanted a bumper sticker that said the Republican Party is addicted to Coke. Koch.
Amarin.
Yep.
We've talked about Amarin. I'm not sure who they are, but
from time to time.
BNSF. That's a railroad. I think that's what's his name? One of the richest men in America. What's his name?
Warren
Buffett.
Buffett.
Yeah,
yes.
Warren Buffett.
Yeah, he seems to be coming down on both sides of the fence.
Yeah, he does seem to be.
Yep. But basically what's happening here is Koch Industries and a couple of other organizations are putting huge amounts of money into political campaigns and advertising campaigns and so forth, which are spreading misinformation. And there is no question at all that in my mind, that there is misinformation coming from people at the highest levels of the Republican Party and elsewhere who are operating with the intention of having half a dozen people control this country by controlling Congress and the White House.
Well, they're close to doing it.
They are close to doing it.
The arguments in this article
Yep.
talked about the fact that these people who wrote these studies didn't really even read the sources.
Yeah.
Well, the point is, they didn't want to read the sources.
They don't have to read the sources.
Their point was to come up against it.
That's right. You
Why
can say
confuse people with the facts?
absolutely. Citizens United says that any company that wants to can put any amount of money that it wants to into any campaign it wants to. They've got freedom of speech. They're allowed to lie.
It's pretty neat, isn't it?
Yeah, isn't it neat? I can sit here and lie. I've got a forum at BCTV that permits me basically to say whatever I want.
Yeah.
And anybody who takes what I say at face value is perhaps making a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Mm-hmm. So go out and look for yourself. but these guys have got a history of supporting certain political groups, and those political groups have decided, Koch brothers, they're honest.
It's all about power.
And it's all about
Not
power,
the kind
and
of
so
power
they're
we're
cashing
talking
in.
about. It's political power.
Yeah, they're cashing in on a not a debt, but a reputation that they've built with people of being anti-socialist, anti-communist, for pro-American, pro
free market.
Free
Gotta
market.
have free markets. Of course, there is no such thing as a free market.
Pro-democracy, and
as soon as they get into a
patriotic.
market, they want to rig it.
And they are in the process of selling out this country, selling it out.
Yeah.
And
Well, they've been doing that for a long time.
They've been
It's
doing it
called
for a
looting.
long. It's called what?
Looting.
Looting.
Yeah.
Well, they're doing more than just looting now. They are making sure that the United States is stuck in a 19th century to 20th century technology, while China is moving into 21st century technology, and so is India, and so are a number of other countries. And it's absolutely astonishing to me that conservative, pro-American, patriotic people are putting up with this.
They're just buffaloed.
They're buffaloed. That's right.
Well,
It
this
has
one
nothing
coming
to
up
do
is
with
pretty
any.
nice. This one's a good one.
From the telegraph.co.uk.
I guess it is.
Okay, thousands of UK householders are installing solar power smart meters. The devices track when rooftop solar panels produce excess energy and divert it to the water heaters. Calculations produced for the Telegraph, for Telegraph money, suggest that an average family of 4 would save 243 pounds per year, earning back the original outlay in less than 2 years. Now, 243 pounds is a bit over $400.
Yeah.
So this is an interesting thing to me because it's something that could be done anywhere, and it doesn't necessarily have to be stopped at heating the water in a water heater. You could heat your house this way.
Oh, absolutely.
Now,
Absolutely.
here's the deal. They're cutting support for their rooftop solar, and technology is stepping in and providing support for rooftop solar.
And they're saying even if you can't sell your excess power, you can store it.
Yeah,
And there's a couple of pictures there up there.
yeah,
The one on the left is the solar smart meter,
yes,
which is basically those 3 boxes on the wall.
right.
And the one on the right is a battery.
Yep. Now the battery, that looks like a washing machine next to
It
the
is.
battery. Okay.
Yep, yep.
So the battery is the black box on the right.
That's $2,500. That's a 2,500 pound power vault.
That's 2,500 pounds sterling, not pounds
Correct.
of avoirdupois.
That's
Yeah.
about $4,000.
It's about $4,000. Yes, that's right. And we will be getting into some really interesting solutions for power right now. Should
Sounds
we
like a
move to
plan.
that? Okay, we got this from Clean Technica, and this is still Saturday, August 29th. And you can go to my blog, geoharvey.wordpress.com, and look at these things because I've got links to the original stories. But this story says researchers at the University of South Australia developed a low-cost energy storage solution, I'm having trouble talking today, that uses salt to store excess electricity. Their system uses salt as a phase change material for smaller scale, rapid discharge batteries for residential and commercial use. It has a cost that is up to 10 times cheaper than batteries.
Well, they're using the word batteries with dual meaning here.
Yeah.
These things aren't batteries in a typical sense.
Not in a typical
but they're
sense.
storage units, and a battery is a storage unit.
Yes.
And they talk about salt. It's not sodium chloride. It's not the stuff you sprinkle on your food.
Yeah.
It's various other salts, which sodium nitrate, calcium nitrate, mixtures of the two. And they've done a lot of research on this.
Uranium fluoride.
These things melt, if you will,
Yeah.
at not much more than room temperature.
Some of them do.
We're not talking up to 700 degrees. We're talking 90 to 120 degrees, you know. And these things go very smoothly from solid salt to liquid
salt. Yep.
And it's, you know.
Let me describe to people what a phase change is so they understand.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay. When you heat up water, water is one of the hardest things in nature to heat up.
Yeah.
And it makes it one of the hardest things in nature to cool off, which is why if you go out into you know, the Connecticut River in the middle of the winter when it's 20 below zero and you bore a hole in the ice, you find there's still water down there. Mm-hmm. What happens is a phase change happens when water freezes or when ice thaws. A phase change.
Or when it goes into steam.
That's right.
So it's from solid to liquid to gas.
And
that's a phase change.
And the very, very cool thing about water, and it's related to the shape of a snowflake, is that when water is ready to boil, mm-hmm. it's 100% of it is going to be H2O and nothing else. Mm-hmm. But when the temperature goes down, a few of these H2O atoms start to unite into 2H2O, 3H2O, 4H2O, 5H2O, 6H2O, which forms a hexagon ring.
Yeah.
And every time they unite, they take on or come apart.
Every time they change phase.
Yeah, they are changing a phase. So as water cools up and cools down and heats up, it's constantly going through phase changes of individual molecules. When it gets to the point that it freezes, then the whole thing goes through a phase change to ice. When it gets to the point where it turns to steam, the whole thing will turn to steam, and that's a big phase change. Now, okay, it takes, the way that scientists measure heat is in calories, mm-hmm. as you know. A calorie is the amount of energy that it takes to raise the temperature of a gram of water, mm-hmm. which is a cubic centimeter of water, 1 degree Celsius. Mm-hmm. This is one of the beautiful things about the metric system is that everything is based on...
in 10.
Yeah, exactly. It's all related.
That's too complicated.
Yeah. What is a kilogram? Well, a kilogram is the weight of
1,000 grams.
1,000 grams, which
1,000
happens to be the weight of a liter of water.
Yeah.
I mean, there it is. So, anyway, the amount of a calorie is the amount to change the temperature 1 degree of 1 gram of water. The amount of calories that you get by allowing the amount of calories that are
you get or use
lose by the phase change between water and ice is, as I recall, 64 calories.
Okay,
and
so
the amount
64 times.
Yeah, and the amount of calories that you get or lose when you change to steam is over 700.
Okay.
Okay. Now, that's that phase change, and then you have the continuous phase change in between of these minor things that are going on. If you took a gram of steel and put it at 0 degrees Celsius and heated it up to 100, applied the amount of heat that it would take to move a gram of water to steam, mm-hmm. you would make that steel turn so hot you couldn't even look at it. Mm-hmm. Okay?
It would be glowing white.
It would be glowing white. It would light up this room because it would be so hot. And it would melt through the floor and find its way to the basement.
Well, you've noticed trying to boil water.
Yeah.
It gets up to boiling temperature real quick.
Yeah.
But then for the whole thing to boil away, it takes a long time.
Takes a long time. Yeah. That's right.
Same amount of energy going into it.
What they're doing here is they're using that same kind of thing, which is a phase change, to store power in some kind of
Some
salt.
kind of salt. Yep.
And they're saying that they can deliver the equivalent of a household battery for a tenth of the price.
Certainly worth following up.
Oh man, if this is correct,
Yeah.
wow.
Well, you've heard me say it here many times. There's a lot of really smart people
There
around the
sure
world
are.
working on stuff like this.
Yeah.
And some of them are going to hit the nail on the head.
That's right.
And this might very well be
might
one
be
of
it. I read about this kind of thing, and we report about this kind of thing continuously. But this is one that's particularly exciting, I think.
I think so. I really think this could be a game changer.
Yep. Now we have to get to Sunday. And this is a report from Asia 1. And this is Sunday, August 30th. Technological advances mean businesses no longer need to choose between economic growth and climate stability, according to former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan. Mr. Annan told people at an event, quote, "There is no such thing as a trade-off. We can have both. What is required is a will," end quote. He noted
That's right on the money.
progress already made in renewable energy. I think he's been watching this show.
I bet. Yeah, I bet he has. You have to send him a telegram.
You know, the thing that I think is really beautiful here is we can address climate change and be more prosperous than we are now.
Yeah.
We can get more prosperous.
We meaning everybody.
Everybody.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Not
well,
the 1%.
Absolutely. There are a few people who would suffer.
Yeah, but
They're over 70.
they got their billion. They got
They've
their
got their
billions.
billions. What can I say?
Billion here, billion there.
yeah.
Pretty soon you're up to some real money. Huh?
That's right. Yeah. That was Everett Dirksen who said that, wasn't it?
I think it was.
I think it was. And I think he said it at a time that John Kennedy was in the White House. Okay, we're up to Monday, August 31st. From CNN, we got this. The White House might say Alaska is the canary in the climate change coal mine, with raging fires, ice melts in the Arctic, vanishing glaciers, and whole villages forced to relocate away from rising seas. President Obama will carry that urgent message to Alaska as part of a drive to change the conversation on global warming. And it amazes me that, what's her name, the woman who ran for vice president. You know, I blank on names sometimes.
For vice president?
Yeah.
You mean Hillary?
No, with McCain.
Oh, Sarah Palin.
Sarah Palin. It amazes me that Sarah Palin isn't tuned into this, because the biggest alteration in climate change that's
And she's from
happening
Alaska.
is in Alaska, which she was governor of Alaska. But you know, one of the people who supported some of the things that Obama was doing in Alaska was the current senator, Murkowski. Is it?
I think so. Yeah.
Murkowski. He went up there and renamed Mount McKinley into a local name. Local.
It's been
Native
named
America.
that forever.
Yeah.
Everybody
well,
calls it Denali.
Yeah, except the
Well,
federal
there's
government.
a story behind that.
I know.
I mean,
there is.
McKinley came from Ohio,
Yes.
and the congressional delegation from Ohio has consistently been voting against renaming it Denali. This has been going on for more than 20 years. And finally, Obama got
It has
sore.
nothing to do with politics.
Obama got sore. He said, I'm going to do it by executive order.
Yes.
So
Well,
it's now Denali.
and the
and
people in Ohio who are climate change deniers, by the way, by profession, don't like it, and so they're.
I don't think
they're
there's much they
complaining.
can do about it now.
Yeah, but Obama, you know, one of the things. Do you have that picture? What is the picture that you've got for this?
I'll get the picture back up.
The
picture is just that's Denali in the background.
Okay.
It's taken from another mountain. It's some mountain climbers.
Okay. There was what is the next picture? Is that also
I
from
don't
this
have
story?
the rest of the pictures. Oh, there was a whole bunch of pictures in this.
Okay, one of the pictures in this story was a picture of a village that is by the ocean, and they are going to have to
And it's
relocate
gonna
every
flood.
single house in that village has to relocate. They are, and this is because the seas are rising.
Sea is rising.
But
exactly.
they've got a completely screwed up ecological system there, and they've got things happening that the local people are complaining about. their way of life has completely changed already. It has completely changed. Villages that used to be surrounded by ice much of the year are now surrounded by water nearly all the year, and that changes things because they were dependent on that ice to get around, for fishing,
for hunting, for fishing.
Exactly.
Not buffalo.
Now instead
walrus.
of ice, they've got mud.
Yeah.
You know, it changes their way of life, and we've seen this in Vermont too. In Vermont, I didn't live in Vermont. I lived in New Hampshire, just across the river from Brattleboro. And when I was a kid, there was no such thing as a tick. No such thing as a tick.
Huh.
None.
None.
We would go out and play in the pasture around the house where the cows wandered around all the time. We would go into the woods. We'd spend our day barefoot, running around, having fun in the summer, and never have a tick. Now, today,
they're all over the place.
not only are they all over the place, but people are getting Lyme disease from ticks.
Yeah.
So, okay, why is this happening? Because in order for the ticks to be killed back, we have to have a combination of a cold winter with no snow on the ground. And that combination used to happen every once in a while. Every once in a while, we'd have a winter with that combination. And it's not happening anymore. So the ticks move north, the Lyme disease they carry moves north, and if you, lady or gentleman, have got Lyme disease, or a friend with Lyme disease, or a family member with Lyme disease, you are a victim of climate change.
By the way, this has nothing to do with climate change, but I heard something very interesting on Vermont Public Radio.
Yeah?
A woman's got Lyme disease.
Yeah.
She has succeeded to control it, not to cure it, but control it with bee stings.
Good for her. That's also good for arthritis. And as a matter of fact, I don't know if they have it at the Brattleboro Co-op, but you can buy bee venom to eat.
Well, the way this article
She's
went
probably
on radio,
been stung.
She's got bees. She's got a little container of bees she carries with her.
Oh my
And if
gosh.
she's feeling some symptoms, she pulls out a bee with a tweezer and lets it bite her.
Oh my gosh. Well, Lyme disease is not fun.
No, it can be very,
bee
very
stings
debilitating.
are not fun.
I
but
know a lady
honestly,
had
I
it
can
that-
understand why a person would rather have a bee sting than Lyme disease.
Well, I knew a lady from Townsend had it, and she died. And everybody thinks she died from the complications of Lyme disease.
Yeah.
I mean, she was pretty well crippled with it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, perhaps we should get out of that and go on. That report, by the way, came from CNN.
Well, just a little quick aside on this thing.
Okay.
Obama went up there and he talked about climate change all over Alaska.
Yes.
And what does the newspaper say? Obama to rename U.S. peak.
Of course. You know, I mean, it's like, and articles focused entirely on the fact that he irked a bunch of politicians from Ohio.
Yeah.
You know, what's more important? The feelings of a bunch of politicians in Ohio because they happen not to like the president, but also not to like the fact that he would rename a mountain that had been named after somebody from Ohio.
Who never saw it.
Who never saw it, and
Matter of fact,
nobody alive ever saw him either.
He wasn't even president when they named it after him. He was a candidate.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure is a whole nother story.
Yeah. But, you know.
He did get elected.
Who?
McKinley.
McKinley?
Yeah. Moving right along.
Moving right along, okay. McKinley was the guy who was bought into power by Marcus, what was that guy's name? Hanna.
Mark Hanna.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was the only, my recollection is, you know, my father used to tell me when I was a kid that McKinley was the only president who was actually just bought into the White House. So.
Not anymore.
Well, that was my father. My father died.
That was a couple of generations ago. We've had a few more in between.
I don't know. I think that some of them got
some of them got elected
by
George W. Bush didn't get elected.
Well, we can argue about that later. Okay. The next item here comes from oil and gas industry latest news. Major oil producing countries are looking to sustainability. Recently, Bloomberg forecast that 2/3 of the $12.2 trillion global investment in capacity generation to 2040 will be in the renewables sector.
Say that again. This is Bloomberg talking. This is Wall Street.
That's right. 2/3 of the $12.2 trillion investment in capacity generation to 2040 will be from the renewable sector, according to Bloomberg. Now, I happen to think that Bloomberg is wrong. I think it's going to be more than two-thirds. Yeah. A signal simply of economic progression or of increasing need for diversification of the energy mix. And you've got a picture there. What's the picture?
Well, it's just a wind farm.
Wind
I
farm.
don't even know where it is.
Yeah.
It's just a typical wind farm.
Another boring wind farm.
I think it's certainly not in New England because there's no trees on that ridge.
Yeah.
It's probably in England or Ireland.
If it were in New England, they would have left almost all the trees.
All the trees would be there.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, the headline here, oil nations look to renewables.
Yes.
I mean, Saudi Arabia, they got so much wind they don't know what to do with. It's blowing all the time.
It's blowing all the time. And it's like, okay, you're going to have a polluting energy source, or you're going to have a non-polluting energy source.
Well, they're going to run out of oil. They know that.
Yeah.
And they're going to be positioned
Yep.
to provide wind power to Europe.
Yep.
And they know that too.
They know it, and they're after that. And they're not the only country in that part of the world that has important people in it that know that. Okay. Eni's discovery of potentially the world's largest natural gas field off the Egyptian coast will be a game changer for Egypt and the Mediterranean in terms of energy stability. The CEO of Italian energy giant Eni told CBS on Monday. Eni said in a press release that the gas field could satisfy Egypt's natural gas demand for decades. This is from CNBC.
This is interesting. It's apparently a very large gas field.
Yep, on the bottom of the Mediterranean, at considerable depth, by the way.
Is it? Yeah. Well,
I think this is going to satisfy more than Egypt's natural gas demand for decades, because
Isn't it about time we have war with Egypt?
Had what?
A war with Egypt.
Well, you know.
Now they got this gas, it's a good excuse.
Yeah, right. This energy wars, you know, I wrote a thing about energy wars on for Green Energy Times, which is the one that is currently out, called The Silent World War.
Oh yeah? I'll have to read it.
You should. It's on the front page, and it starts with the idea that we are in a world war, every country on earth, and it's not the countries fighting against each other. It's all kind of a civil war. It's a world civil war, which is being fought financially and in the advertising media and stuff like that, instead of with bullets. But there are people dying, and they're dying at a rate of 10,000 a day.
Wow.
4,400 a day in China alone, and that 10,000 that I just cited is from the World Health Organization, and I don't think that really reflects the actual number, because it doesn't include people dying of lung cancer or people dying of pancreatic or liver cancer, which can come from exposure to petrochemicals. And people dying, you know, if you Lyme disease, okay. If you have emphysema or you have asthma, you've got a condition which is being made worse by people who are using advertising media to keep their support for the things that they are doing that are destroying your health. And that's basically...
It's about money.
It's about money, and it's about, you know, Citizens United and stuff. Talk to Bernie Sanders. He'll tell you all about it. Okay. We should move on because we've got stuff to talk about, and we don't have much time anymore. Aspen is one of 3 U.S. cities to run on 100% renewable energy, according to city officials. The shift to energy that is generated from natural resources, including wind power, solar power, and geothermal heat, follows a decade-plus city goal. Earlier U.S. cities to reach that goal were Greensburg, Kansas, and Burlington, Vermont. This is from the Aspen Times.
Well, Greensburg, Kansas, isn't that the town with the windmills all over it?
It's the town with the windmills all over it.
Yeah.
They've got Greensburg, Kansas is 1,000 acres, so it's roughly 1 1/3 square miles, and it So everything in Greensburg is within three-quarter of a mile from the center. If you're in the center of
in a
Greensburg,
hospital parking lot, it's a huge windmill.
yeah, if you're in the center of Greensburg, you are within three-quarters of a mile of 14 wind turbines.
Oh, the noise must be deafening.
Must be deafening. And you can call it. You can go to their website, greensburgks.org, and you can find the telephone number of the municipal building and call them and say how many people have complained about wind turbines. And when I did that, I did do it. I was told nobody ever complains about wind turbines. We like wind turbines.
We like wind turbines.
Yeah. Okay.
And they also mentioned Burlington, which has the wood chip plant.
Burlington in Vermont, by golly. Yeah.
And they just went 100% by purchasing a small hydro dam.
Yes. Good for them.
Good for them.
Okay. Energy Collective reports from 3 Chinese agencies all point to continuing decline of the use of coal in the first half of 2015, continuing a trajectory already notable in 2014. These are not declines in the rate of growth, but are absolute declines in the amount of coal consumed.
Say that again. That's important.
This is not a decline in the rate of growth. It is a decline in the amount. This use is declining. China is working on new laws to speed reduction of pollution further. Now, I'm going to predict, and I think this is a fairly safe prediction, that the decline in coal use will continue for the rest of 2015 because the Chinese economy is currently in recession. And so they're going to have a declining demand for coal for the rest of this year and possibly for next year. And by the time they get back to a point where they need to make money again, I think they're probably going to have solar and wind in sufficient quantities.
That seems to be what's happening right now.
That's right. Okay.
The times they are changing.
They are changing. Next item from TampaBay.com. Former CEO of Duke Energy, the country's biggest power company, now says that the way big U.S. power companies operate is out of date. Quote, "It's very clear to me that the system of electric power we have in North America is not sustainable for the future of the planet. So we're going to have to figure out something else, and soon."
We talked about this guy before.
Yeah, he's an interesting character.
He's had his Damascus moment, I think.
I think he has. I'm going to invite him to lunch.
Yeah, you know, he's retired now, and he's turning around and he's saying, you know, the way we did it isn't working anymore.
Yeah, and he's not the only person. There are other people in the power industry, in the coal industry, and the fossil fuels industry who have said this. Okay.
Well, he thought this article is basically about his book called Lighting the World.
Yeah.
And in this book, he's telling the developing countries, don't do it the way
coal.
we did it.
Yeah.
This is a better way.
There are better ways, and don't do nuclear either. It's too expensive.
No, well, I don't know that he even mentions that. He's talking about renewables.
Yes. Okay. Wednesday. I'm in the wrong month. September 2nd. Industry Today. New research by Aerothermal Group pioneers developing innovative solutions from aerospace through green energy from waste has shown that 635 kilowatt hours of renewable electricity can be generated from 1 ton. This is not a U.S. ton, this is a tonne of waste.
They're almost the same.
Almost the same. This is a 2,200 pound ton.
Metric ton.
Yeah, metric ton of waste from fast food outlets. Using the same system, 1 ton of pure kitchen waste generates about 847 kilowatt hours.
That picture up there is how they're doing it.
Yeah, and that means that food waste has monetary value.
Yeah.
You can get money out of it, significant amounts of money. And by the way, the electricity that you're generating is only part of it, because the other thing that you're getting is digestate, which can be used as a soil amendment and is basically the equivalent.
A fertilizer.
It's a fertilizer, and it's a good fertilizer, a really good fertilizer, and you can use it in your garden if you've got it.
Well, as I have said, there's nothing wasted in nature.
That's true.
And we just have to emulate nature.
Oh, well, yeah, but
there's always something eats something.
Yeah, there's something eats something, but
there's even things eat rocks. I knew a guy that used to eat rocks.
Well, you know, my son was telling me that he saw a report in, I don't know where it was, Scientific American or something, and it talked about people who had gone down in uranium mines or gold mines or something in South Africa, And they were finding that in environments that were so bad that people just couldn't stay there very long. Temperatures of 140 degrees, high levels of radioactivity stuff, they would take rocks and break them open and find microbes inside them.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there are scientists now who believe that evolution started with microbes that developed inside rocks. We should keep going here.
We should.
The Independent tells us the commitment of the UK's Big Six, we're back to the UK, into tackling climate change has been called into question. Yesterday, the Independent revealed that British Gas and SSE use more coal for electricity now than they did 10 years ago. Now, today, it says that not a single one of Britain's biggest suppliers offers a renewable energy tariff.
So these are the big guys.
Who are bribing the government,
If
in
you
my
want
opinion.
renewable energy, you got to go to one of the little guys.
That's right. Yeah.
And there's 29
And
of them.
these are the guys who
They
are
control the
buying
market.
the government into government and control the market. And the small people, the future of humanity, none of it matters. The thing that matters is money. And it's a shame.
Well, it's a bid to simplify the market, so they say.
A bid to simplify the market. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, get rid of all the competition.
That's right. Yeah. Okay, and our last item for today is from Clean Technica. A review of 11 studies considering the effects of net metering highlighted the importance of reduced or avoided environmental compliance costs, capital investment costs, and energy costs. And it showed not only that solar net metering is not harmful to markets, but that utilities have actually been underpaying for its use.
Well, they have really, because they've been saving money on buying things like peak power.
Yes?
And they're not passing that off and they're complaining, but really they're ahead of the game. That's what this article's about.
Yep, and they're ahead of the game because if they continue burning coal, then they wind up running into problems with compliance costs and things of that nature.
That's a big part of the...
And so they have got big reasons to be in compliance.
Oh, sure.
Big reasons
I'm sure
to support solar, and actually big reasons to support any kind of renewable power. The net metering, one thing we should perhaps explain is that the wholesale power market is not a market like a supermarket where you go in and there's a price and you pay it, regardless of the time of day. It changes by the minute. And at the high demand times, which usually means afternoon.
Late afternoon when the air conditioners are running.
Right. At high demand times, the price of power can get very high. And when in the old technology where you've got inflexible, huge boilers in baseload power plants, when you need more than what baseload will supply, they've got to go out in the open market. And solar is competing against that.
Exactly that. So that's how they're saving money.
Yep.
There's a nice, concise paragraph here about what it is, and I'll read it.
Let's read it.
What is net metering? The practice of net metering allows the owner of a solar or other energy system, such as a standard solar photovoltaic array commonly seen on residential rooftops, to be credited for the surplus electricity that their system sends back to the grid.
Right.
Okay, if they can't save it, they can sell it.
Yep.
Okay, and they do it by this system called net metering. The practice essentially runs the electric meter backwards during periods of high solar production and low energy consumption.
Right.
That's not exactly what's happening, but it's a good metaphor.
Yeah.
Okay, because optimum solar electricity production happens during the day, as you just mentioned.
Yep.
Yet many solar homeowners also use the least amount of energy during the day because they're not home.
Yes.
During the day, excess solar electricity produced by the solar relay flows back to the grid, where it is used by those who are drawing power at that time. When the sun is down and the residents are home using electricity, they pull power from the grid like any other house. But because their solar array has been crediting their account with electricity production all day long, they only pay the net difference.
Right. And one of the things about net metering is that typically people who are doing net metering get more money for the solar power they're putting on the grid then they pay for solar power coming off the grid. So we are past our time, so we're going to have to say goodbye. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
It makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still.